Before I invite the two Prime Ministers onto the stage, I would just like to say personally what a great pleasure this is that I will be introducing them. I think the visit of Prime Minister Rama to Belgrade at Prime Minister Vucic's invitation sends out a very strong signal, not just to the region, but to the European Union as well, at a time of profound crisis, and I can say that with passion as I am a Briton and an opponent of Brexit. This sends out a really important signal that notwithstanding difficult issues, these two men are grasping opportunities to show that stability and constructive work together is possible. So I would like to invite to the stage Prime Minister Rama of Albania and his host, Prime Minister Vucic of Serbia. We only have 50 minutes, which is not very long to discuss a great many topics. So I am going to be very brief with my questions. The two Prime Ministers have kindly accepted that I will interrupt them if I feel as though we're going off topic or that we're running out of time, and I will be checking everything on my trusty iPhone. So thank you both very much for agreeing to this discussion. And I wish to pick up on where Sonja Licht left off, talking about the raft, the numerous crises that we have in the European Union, and what that means for the process of accession and integration of the Western Balkans into the European Union. How badly has the accumulated problems of Greece, Britain, we've got the Italian banking system coming up. How badly is that going to affect your attempts, Prime Minister Vucic, to move Serbia closer towards that moment of accession into the European Union, which I know is your stated goal?
Thank you, Mr. Glenny, for hosting us here, and wanted to say many thanks to Sonja, and she's always been organizing best forums in this country, and hope that you're going to carry on with this type of meetings. Once again, profoundly grateful to Mr. Rama, and we do appreciate the fact that he's here today, and that he joined us, and that he gave us a chance to speak together and to develop. Because when you speak to each other, you always improve your relationship, and that is something of the biggest significance for all of us. To tell you the truth, I don't know what to reply to you, what to answer on your question, because I think, of course, people in Serbia were always measuring everything that was happening, as you said, in Greece, Great Britain, all the other EU countries. And I'm not sure that we have an alternative, although there are philosophers who would always say there is always an alternative. But, you know, it created a bad signal to all of us, because people wanted to say, okay, you see, there are countries and people that would like to leave the EU. At the same time, you want to be a member of EU, and you should reconsider all of our previous decisions. And my response to them was, okay, there won't be any referendums, and I think that the main strategic goal of our government is to do everything, to do whatever we can to, on our EU path, to get closer to the full membership of the EU. And it's not easy. I'm not here to make any complaints, to cry over our terrible destiny, and just wanted to say that we need to do better for ourselves. And speaking about economy, we are doing so. And you know, 2-3 years ago when some people were saying, okay, you should meet with those Albanians, with Bosniaks, with all the others, and we were, you know, like Croats were in a previous periods, no, we don't want to interfere with those guys. Now I'm not ashamed to say, I'm proud to say, yeah, we would like to have better ties, better relationship with Albanians, Bosniaks, all the others, because I see that potentially speaking we have and will have a bigger and a better growth rate than most of the European countries. And we have a true and a real potential in the future. And we can do it, and we can do it all together. If we are going to do many things against each other, we have no chances at all. If we do it together, if we do better transport interconnections, if we do better political ties in the future, have no doubts. And if there are some comprehensive solution from European side, speaking on migrant crisis and some other crises, we'll have no problems to get closer to EU, economically speaking, and even politically speaking, in the years to come. But to tell you the truth, I'm not that optimistic. I'm very much afraid of the situation in the region, and I know that that would be your next topic. And I don't know what is going to happen. I see that because I have one remark on EU's behavior. They were always putting ahead different tasks, different aims, different goals. Most of those tasks were shaped in a very bureaucratic way. And if you do that, okay, you're an okay guy. If you don't do that, you're not an okay guy. But during that time, maybe that period, we succeeded to lose political momentum, and today is completely different atmosphere. And I'm not pretending to say that it's a better atmosphere today than it used to be a year or 2 years ago. No, it's much worse. Read the papers today. See the front pages. Do you really think that someone from the government was saying that, I don't know, what is happening in Russia, what is happening in Washington? No, it's dictated by the new reality, by the new events that unfortunately we cannot control anymore. And I think that in a way we are losing the ground, although we don't want to admit that to the public because it doesn't fit to our political ideas, and that's going to be a huge, huge problem in the future.
Let me bring in Prime Minister Rama here. Prime Minister, you have just succeeded in getting through an astonishing reform of your judicial system in Albania. Even if accession moves slowly, how important is that relationship with the EU in modernizing Albania's institutions, or is that coming from Albania itself?
Thank you. Let me first congratulate you for the incurable optimism when you said in 50 minutes you'll solve everything here, because I don't think it's doable, but anyway, we'll try. And going back to the EU and to the whole situation, I think we, at least here in the Balkans, have to be clear on one simple point. EU process for us is not a trip to go somewhere, because some people are expecting this from us, but it's a modernization path that is possible for our societies to fill the gap with the future only through the EU integration process. As such, I think EU integration process is even more important than membership in this moment, because it helps us to build the states we never had in terms of institutions, in terms of rule of law and functioning democracies, and in terms of vibrant societies with the energy for competition, for success, for failure, and again for success. Now, it looks like a Balkan curse because Europe was there in a good shape when we were messing up. Now we are trying to get in a good shape, then they are messing up. And, you know, it looks like it will never be a moment when we'll be on both sides in a good shape. But still, you know, I don't want to go further with that because I know that this would somehow inflict pain to your uns. You have already left EU. And as for the justice reform, yes, we have embarked in a process that was simply unimaginable for Albania. And today we have passed a constitutional reform and we are passing packages of legislation which are so radical in the discontinuity with the past that everyone is clear on one thing. This would never be possible without the EU integration mechanism. So I want to end by saying people can feel different ways. People can feel different ways about Washington, about Brussels, about Moscow. But people in this region should realize there is no other mechanism to let us get out once and forever from the path of a not very generous history and to modernize, to become finally modern and live in our age. Then will we be members? Will EU be there once we are ready to be members? This is something that we cannot really be able to predict today, not because of us, but because of them in Brussels. But at the end, what matters is we should and will be modern, finally. And will not, and will get out of a never-ending childish way to behave towards our future because of being hostages of our past.
Thanks. And I'm a little concerned, Mr. Vucic, about what you said about you feel that Serbia is losing ground. Is it losing ground because the EU is proving to be incapable of dealing with the accession process of the Western Balkans because of the multiple crises? Or is it losing ground because of uncertainty inside Serbia and the Western Balkans themselves?
There are, to be absolutely honest, several reasons for that. And first of all, I don't want to blame EU for that, although I really think what I said. Most probably, it was our fault, and it still is. And we were not able to explain to our people in a good way what we have recently accomplished. People didn't feel it in their pockets, didn't feel it in their minds, and didn't realize that we did something regarding the values we were fighting for. We were not good enough. And at the same time, you have to connect everything you were speaking about to the regional situation and, of course, to the economy of all our countries. And when I was speaking, I was not speaking because I saw one of those tweets. I was not speaking only about Serbia. I see Albania as a country that might provide, that might get a very big growth rate. in the future, and all the other Western Balkan countries. And we should not be ashamed that we are from the Balkans. But the problem is that many people, have to understand in a way people's will. And you have to understand the atmosphere, an overall atmosphere, which we didn't, all of us, together with the EU leadership. And that's our fault. Because I think that George McGovern used to say, when you say about someone that is ahead of his time, that's a very polite way to say to someone that he has a very bad sense of timing. And I have to say that for many people from this region, from Europe, from the world, because they didn't get it, what was happening here. Now I see the rising nationalist ideas, and I know that everybody would say, no, that stupid Vucic, he's speaking about that because he needs to win a presidential elections, and I don't, and I'm not going to be a candidate, and I don't care about it too much. It's just the fact that people always, when they analyze something, and I'm speaking about many ambassadors and all the others, they always think what they would do. And they don't analyze the real situation. And the real situation is the following. You have huge problems in Bosnia, and I'm not going to make any further comments on that. It is very obvious, huge comments, and I cannot accept the alleged fact that the only guilty person should be the president of Republika Srpska, and everybody else all the others are great guys, and he is the only person to be blamed for everything. Okay, if that's easier for someone, good. Secondly, we have, although I think that we built a kind of mutual trust between Serbs and Albanians, I'm not speaking Serbs from Serbia, Serbs from Republika Srpska, or Albanians from Albania, Albanians from Kosovo. We succeeded to build a kind of mutual trust and confidence. Of course, it's still very fragile. It is very fragile. And I see that the main news here on Twitter is that here are many people from Kosovo, we would say Pristina, people from their medias. So what? It's just a normal thing. Nothing really important. But the problem is that, when we speak about our relationship, there are always huge hurdles, huge bumps on the roads we need to overcome. And to tell you the truth, we are late. When we are late, we cannot fulfill our obligations. Then there is something else, let's say insults and offenses that were coming from Croatia against Serbia. And to be honest, European Union was silent. We were silent because we didn't want to do and to say anything against them. But European Union was silent, and people see that here. So, and that's the problem. So what's the solution? There are no solutions.
What you're saying is, when it comes to we didn't and the EU didn't, and we didn't understand what people were feeling in this region, you're referring to nationalism or their dissatisfaction with the way that governance is?
Both, Misha. And the problem is that I'm first of all referring to my country. And I'm not criticizing anybody else. I see that because, I'm afraid of our reaction. And it's not up to the leadership of Serbia. That's why I was saying that we are losing the ground. And it's not about percents you're going to get if you have an elections. You see how topics are changed. And it's just a matter of time when people will change their politicians. Because you have bigger and better support for bigger Russian presence here in Serbia, with no doubts, which is okay. We have traditionally good relationship with Russia, but people have to know that. And we have to say that. Why does it happen? Make an analysis. Make an analysis. But what I was saying, and I'm not searching, not looking for any kind of excuses, because I was saying in a very blunt way to our people, I am the Prime Minister since we are on our EU path. Otherwise, choose someone else. That's it. And also, I'll do my best to preserve traditionally good ties with Russia, and that's it. But I see that it's a kind of ruining process that has started recently and not strong enough to oppose to that.
Well, let me bring in Eddie on this, because Eddie, Rama, you don't have exactly the same dynamic going on in Albania itself. I want to leave aside Kosovo and Macedonia at the moment. But in Albania itself, what are the expectations, the distrusts that you are having to battle against when it comes to the EU accession process and major reforms in general? Do you come up against similar resistance, misunderstandings, conflict?
I think we are in a different situation compared to Serbia when it comes to the EU integration path, because we are not in the middle of two possible loves. We have only one, meaning towards West. And this also is very much felt as such by the society, is very much connected with our past, which was an impediment to meet West based on an always present dream of the Albanians to be part of Europe. So I must say that we have been able to make reforms that were never made in our country, because people have realized that this is the way to modernize and to be part of this big European family, whatever this means in nowadays. And again, I want to stress that it's our responsibility and it's our battle as leaders to make sure that people realize that the EU integration is not about choosing between different possible loves. It's about choosing between the future and the past in terms of what state we want to have, what institutions we want to have, what societies we want to have. And as such, I think is a unique, unreplaceable tool of modernization. Then, again, when it comes to reforms, it's always difficult, it's always painful, it's always a big burden of responsibility to call for people support and sacrifices, because at the end, we lead reforms. People are the first to pay the costs. But when the costs are worth, then we should move on, and we should move on firmly. And no doubt, this is the only sane thing we can do for our countries.
Sure.
That's allowed, I don't know.
It's allowed. I'm allowing it.
Thank you.
Official.
Just wanted to say that we don't have two loves, as Eddie said. We have only one love, and that is Serbia. And our strategic goal, and it's not a political sentence, and it's not a balanced position. Our strategic goal is our EU path. And I see what some people would try to do with Serbia. I think that many people should appreciate and should respect a very sincere and very honest attitude and stand of the Republic of Serbia. Because, yes, we say we would like to preserve traditionally good ties with Russia, and we don't lie when we say that. But I'm emphasizing that once again. Our strategic goal is EU path of and for Serbia. And to add something else, if you analyze the statements of many EU leaders, you would see, unfortunately, that I'm more consistent and more persistent on EU position of Serbia than they are on their EU position. Sorry to say that, but I cannot accept remarks and the words of criticism from those that can change their words, change their statements every single day in accordance with their hosts or with their guests. I don't do it. I say always the same. I say always the same. What I say today, I say it in Washington, I say it in Moscow, I say it all over the world. And I think that's a politics. You might like it, you might not like it, but that's a real politics of this country.
I just wanted to say two choices in the sense of people feelings, because it sounded like when Aleksandar said we don't have two loves, we have only one for Serbia, it looks like we don't have two choices, we have only one love for ourselves. So this was what I wanted to make clear, because it's clear also in the public opinion a big difference between Albania and Serbia. In Albania, there is no doubt, there is no kind of dilemma within the public opinion about what is the choice. In Serbia, it's different. And this, I'm not meaning this good or bad. I'm saying it's different. And that's why I mentioned that the choice is sometimes undermined by this, two loves in the level of the public opinion. I didn't mean in the level of the clear choice of the government or of the prime minister.
Understood. I want to move on quite briefly to the issue which, according to Sonia, I'm not allowed to call it the migration crisis now, so I'm going to just call it the issue of migration. Because, let's be honest about this, I think everyone who studied the situation was very impressed by Serbia's response to the wave of migration over the past couple of years. But we have a brief stabilization at the moment that is sort of hanging on the thread of the EU-Turkish agreement. Is there anything that Serbia is doing in anticipation of that EU-Turkish agreement falling apart, which, let's face it, is a genuine possibility? I'll take that as a no.
Here are people that know that we were present at numerous meetings in Brussels, all over Europe, to contribute in a way, to find the best possible way to resolve that issue. And once again, I have to say that I really admire Angela Merkel, because she brought us at least 5, 6, 7 times all together, and just to speak to all of us with all different ideas, and with the only one idea how to get and how to gain more money from the European Union, and how to make complaints against all the others which didn't deserve more money. She deserved to be praised, and the best possible prize that we can issue in Europe. And I just can say that, hope that it'll be okay. And we'll do our best to keep on showing our humane and solidar face, and with those people, although it's a bit change the structure of those people. It's not anymore people, real refugees coming from the war areas from Syria. It's people mostly coming from Afghanistan and the other parts of the Central Asia. But we dealt with that in a good way, and we'll keep on doing good business.
And Eddie, for the first time, Albania has noted movement of refugees into your country. Are you worried that this is going to become a pattern if things break down?
We were not, and we are not part of this so-called Balkan Route. And so we were not affected as Serbia or Macedonia or Croatia and Slovenia were affected. But from day one, we had a very clear position that geography cannot be an excuse for not being Europeans. And it's amazing. And I've said it in several occasions when we were gathered with European leaders to see how some EU members are acting on that base. Because the geography has been generous to them in the sense that it has not created a route for immigrants, they allow themselves to behave like they are not Europeans. And Serbia, which is not an EU member state, has behaved much more Europeanly than, I don't want to mention all of them because they are a lot. So what does it mean? It means that we in the Balkans are too naive about this dream, or it means that many of these countries that have entered EU have transformed a dream in just a bankomat machine. And I'm afraid that this is a very disturbing sign about what is happening within the Union. And on one hand, we have said, doesn't matter. We are not part of the route, but we are ready to share with others the burden of responsibility to be Europeans, because it's not fair to see countries in the Balkan route or further suffer because of their geography, and for us to just stay out of it. But at the same time, we can share our burden of responsibility once everyone is ready to do so. And for me, this crisis has been one of the most astonishing examples of how EU is not able to be EU. Because in terms of organization and coordination, it's a mess. It's a mess. And just imagine if Angela Merkel would not be there to save the face of Europe, what we would have seen. And if in Berlin would have been a brother or a sister of Viktor Orban, what you would have seen. So it's a big challenge, but I can say that very proudly we can tell to the European Union, yes, we maybe are not able to fulfill criteria and standards and procedures and all this stuff to be respected as an equal member state. But we are ready to fulfill our duty on some values that, sorry, we are not seeing clearly among the member states. So if it comes one day to be judged by a state that is not behaving like European because of our, I don't know what, quotas on fishes, no. I think, first and foremost, we are behaving like Europeans in the very good sense of it. And for us has always been clear. Look, we have hosted around 3,000 Iranian opposition refugees, political refugees. They were being killed in Liberty camp in Iraq, and nobody wanted to touch it. And they're being killed and killed and killed. And we have a very proud history as Albanians of saving Jews during Second World War. And we welcome them. Now, it's a small country. When we see the numbers of migration fluxes today, maybe 3,000 doesn't look much, but I'm telling you, because it was organized in a very good manner, nobody sees it, nobody has a problem with it. So imagine if Europe would have organized in a proper manner and would not have just ping-ponged these people from a border to a border, maybe this 1 million that are already in Europe would haven't be seen by anyone, because for 500 million people that Europe is today, 1 million is nothing and can be absorbed very easily. But of course, when you are not organized, where you leave to the Greeks the management of the flux, of course you have a mess. And then what you do? You have them 15,000 in one Sunday in the Munich train station, and that's it. And then you have to deal with some idiots there that go to 10%, to 12%, to 15% by just bringing back in time some ghosts of the past we were left behind.
Eddie, I want to move on to the issues of regional security, but I want to introduce that because by invoking Angela Merkel, because you've both spoken very highly of Angela Merkel, and obviously she has been critical in what people now call the Berlin process of keeping the Western Balkans on track, moving towards the European Union. But I want to start with this question, Prime Minister Vucic. What happens if Angela Merkel is no longer Chancellor in, say, 10 months' time? How much is the Western Balkans depending on a single personality and her vision for this region? And how dangerous is that?
I'm a small guy from the Balkans, and we will always respect German people's will. But personally, as an ordinary citizen, I can say that do worry even today, because she was a decisive factor, very determined and dedicated lady, which took care in a way of the region. And can you imagine, you see that Eddie and myself, we can speak to each other calmly, normally, and we can even agree on many different topics. But if there would be some problems in the region, who is the guy that will pick up the phone and say, okay, Vucic, you need to do that, you need to do that. Tell me his or her name. Who's the guy that will do the same with Eddie? Who's the guy that will do the same with the Croats? Who's the guy that will do the same with the Bosniaks? I don't see that guy, to tell you the truth. And you can tell me institutions, organs within European Union. Oh, okay, but I know that name, that is Merkel. And I'm saying the truth. I'm unfortunately saying the truth. If you can say that there are, we do respect all the other leaders, but they didn't show enough of their interests for the region. And we know how painful it might be for all of us, because today, instead of speaking about our economic growth, which is, by the way, bigger twice or 3 times than the average growth rate of the European Union countries, we don't speak about that. We speak only about our problems, because we have them, and we'll have it more and more of our problems. Once again, very unfortunately. And what I see, that would be a kind of, I'm afraid, I cannot say it would be, but I'm afraid that it might be a kind of European disorder, because she invested a lot of her time. And Daddy was mentioning something, because we were both present at several of those meetings. And we immediately start to laugh when we speak about it. We first to smile, then to laugh, because it was, you know, her enormous efforts to bring us all, and then to do something, and then you see one country was advocating that, the other country was advocating something else. The third country, their prime minister couldn't make decision at a spot because he needed furthermore consultations, and he never did those consultations. And we had the second meeting, and once again the same type of the problems. Once they were against Frontex, the other time they were absolutely for Frontex, because they made it, they related number of Frontex people with the amounts of money that someone can get. You know, it's what Teddy was saying, it was really true about it. And then you have that lady, German Chancellor, that took care of that. And they took responsibility of that. And you know, many people in Serbia were asking me, and now your Angela Merkel is going to lose. And I was re-asking them, okay, and your AFD or who else is going to win? So what you going to gain? What we're going to get? And we don't remember, we, the Serbs, we consider ourselves as loyal people. And we don't forget when we had those sanctions imposed against Serbia a year and a half ago, you remember, for nothing, absolutely for nothing. Because people that, hundreds of thousands of people started to flow to Croatia as well, not only to Hungary, and they imposed sanctions over Serbia. Without Angela Merkel's presence in the region, without her intervention and her people. Come on, who knows what would have happened at that time? And many people easily forget stuff. I don't. And I will always be profoundly grateful to her. And I have nothing, because I'm saying this. And Serbia is going to get nothing because I'm saying this. People will laugh at me. Now she's losing and you want to make even better connection. But I'm saying what I think, and we'll never forget it. And that's true. That's true. It would be very unfair to say something against her because she invested a lot of time, a lot of efforts, a dedicated, even devoted work, and I do respect that, I appreciate that. I hate those lazy guys that can always criticize someone and that can do nothing.
Eddie, I will come back to you about Merkel, but...
but I would cut it very short.
Okay.
We're not competing for Angela's heart. So I can agree with him. And I can say simply that she will be the next chancellor and Donald Trump will not be the next president of the United States. This is my assumption.
Good.
And you see, I don't know that, but he knows that.
I know that.
And he knows that. And
yeah, when it comes to Moscow, I have to ask you.
Okay. Now look,
I don't know what will happen in Moscow either.
we don't have a lot of time, so I'm going to, I want to move on to really one of the trickiest issues of all, and that is Kosovo. Prime Minister Vucic, I read this morning...
Now we need 500 minutes.
Yes, I read this morning in one of the Belgrade newspapers that Serbia's president said yesterday when opening the consulate in St. Petersburg that relations with Kosovo, with the Albanian government in Pristina are at its lowest ebb at the moment, its lowest level, because of the Albanians' behavior. Do you agree with your president on that issue?
First of all, I would like to say that when Ed is fighting for bigger Western support, he has no limits for that. He can do whatever he wants to say against Russia or Moscow or to undermine them. I don't do it. I don't do it with the Western powers. I don't do it with Russia, I don't do it with China, and we are in different position indeed. And that's why the polls shows the different results in Albania and Serbia regarding EU path of two countries. But there are some other reasons as well. EU is seen here also as an organization that makes more pressure, always make more pressure on Serbia over Kosovo crisis. At the same time, as I have already said, they were always very loud to make good remarks from time to time. The other type of remarks on Serbia, but they were mostly silent, speaking about the others' errors or misbehavior. And that's what people see and that's what people feel. And Albania has no problems with their territorial integrity. Serbia has. And these are the problems that are differently approached either by European Union, either by our countries. And that's the essence of the problem. But still, I have to say something. People in Serbia should know that. We got the biggest support from European Union. When we had those terrible floods, we got the biggest support from European Union. We have today thousands and thousands of projects in which European Union supports this country and supports people of Serbia. And people of Serbia should know that. And there is no other organization that can compete with European Union on that. And people of Serbia should know that as well. Speaking about our relationship with Pristina, I have plenty of arguments to use to say that the other side is guilty. I'm not going to do it. I'm sure that they will have some to blame ourselves for that. My conclusion on that would be we'll carry on the dialogue process in a very passionate way, because that's one of preconditions for the economic development of an entire region, for the betterment, for the better living standard of the Serbian people themselves. It's something that we need to do for the future of Serb-Albanian relationship. These are two biggest nations in the Western Balkans, and it will be the case in next 100 years. And we have to create that kind of backbone of goodwill in the Western Balkans, and everything else will be much easier to resolve in the future. I know that there are many people in Serbia that don't get it, what I'm saying now. And they will say always, put that white cat on Vucic's head, you know, say that he's an Albanian friend, or he does that, I don't care. I'm saying what I think, and I'm sure that I'm saying the truth. And it's not going to be easy. And you know, we speak to Albanian leaders in Kosovo, which is a good fact. We don't stop the dialogue process, although it looks from time to time that there is a dead end at the end of the street. I don't believe in that. I think that we need to find more compromises. If not, we'll all be stuck, not speaking only about our EU path, speaking about our economic development, speaking about better life for an ordinary people in Belgrade, Pristina, Tirana. And I just wanted to say that, yes, we'll invest more of time, more of our energy, but it's going to be harder and tougher day by day. And that's what I was saying at the beginning of this conference, of this forum, because the atmosphere is changed, completely changed, and it is very difficult not only for our side, but also for the other side to deal with that, and it's not going to be better.
Well, I wanted to, come on, Eddie, we're running out of time, but I wanted to put it to you that Kosovo is a problem for Albania as well, that you're under pressure as a consequence of what's going up north of your border. How do you deal with that issue?
Let me take from Aleksandar. He said in the beginning that we are against Russia. We are not against Russia. And even within NATO, we were among the countries that were advocating the need for a combined strategy of dialogue and restraint, not simply restraint. We live in a world where many things are connected, and we don't have the luxury to not talk to each other, agreeing or not, being or not in the same side. And but he just, again, gave the proof of the two loves. Now, I'm going to the question. Kosovo is where we completely disagree. This is clear. Because my view is that sooner Serbia recognizes Kosovo, better will be for everyone. But at the same time, there is a process which I fully support and for which I have always said very bluntly that both sides, both leaders from Belgrade and Pristina should be praised, the dialogue. The dialogue that is a very important tool to anchor the power in the future. Because at the end, it's not simply about what people think Russia or the West, what priests think about, the holy places. It's about where the power should be anchored. In this country we are, and in general in this region, the power used to be anchored in the past. Now, I very much praise the efforts of Aleksandar to move the power anchor in the future. But at the same time, I think that we should never forget that once we are making dialogues, we're talking about people. We're not talking about history. We're not talking about what the president like, what the prime minister like, what the patriarch like. We're talking about the people. And let me bring you an example. I was going through the Serbian media yesterday. All over the place, I saw Trepča, Trepča, Trepča. Now, I have a very simple question. Trepča is a mine. It's in Kosovo soul. What do you do with Trepča? You transport it here in Belgrade. And on the other hand, in Kosovo, they should realize that Trepča is a mine in Kosovo soul, and it belongs to Kosovo citizens, being they Albanians or Serbs. And at the end of the day, Trepča is about economy. So the question is, should the economy decide if this mine is feasible, is not feasible, is working, is not working, or should politics decide? So it looks like a trivial question, but the answer is not so easy. Let's take another hot topic.
May I reply to this?
No, let me finish. How we want to move forward without cleaning this kind of lists of people that are wanted or whatever, Because I can understand all the arguments, but when someone is crossing the border here, and is crossing the border for the 10th time, and one among 10th time, he is arrested. What does it mean? What does it tell to people? And the last thing I have to say is, again, in both sides, in Kosovo and in Serbia, I'm convinced that the priority when we think about each other should be to make the people happy, to make happy the Serbs in northern Kosovo, to make happy the Albanians in southern Serbia. This should be the goal. Happier these people are, better things will be, and then less room will be opened for idiots and for people that want to take back the anchor of power in the past. This is fundamental. So we should not get lost in translation. Both countries have pledged to go forward, to leave the past back, and so on. And I fully agree with Aleksandar. I'm sure, and that's why I came here first, I come here again, I'll come here as much as will be needed, and I don't care what some people might say. Because when I left Tirana to come to Belgrade last time, I was a traitor. And when I was back, I was a hero. But I am neither a traitor or a hero. I am simply a person that believes that Albanians and Serbs can do together for themselves and for this region what French and Germans did together for themselves and for Europe. After centuries of division by a river of blood. So the examples are there, we are here, and the future is in our grasp. Or we grasp it, or then we kind of confess to the patriarch. You know, I don't know what to say.
Before we end up, I'm going to ask Prime Minister Vucic to respond to that as he's requested, and then we're going to have to wrap up. But do go ahead.
To tell you the truth, when I noticed the presence of Kosovo Media, I knew it from the very beginning that Eddie will do some daily politics. And he's a much better politician than I am. I was not using this opportunity to say something bad about our Prishtina's counterparts. I'm not going to do so. But I'll take two examples he took to explain the situation between Belgrade and Pristina. He was speaking about Trepča. Dare to say that I know a bit more about Trepča than Eddie. I think so, at least. And if he says that it was a question of economy, Pristina did the worst stuff, the worst possible move regarding the economy and development of Trepča. When you say that it's done for the sake or for the benefit of both Albanians and Serbs, can you find one Serb that would agree with that? Did they try to find? Did they try to find one Serb that would agree on that? No, they didn't want to speak to the Serbs that live in Kosovo, that work in Trepča. They didn't even talk to them. They skipped all the procedures that actually they established. They didn't care about it. They wanted for their internal political reasons. And I still don't get it. I can't find ratio legis why they did it, to tell you the truth. And I was saying to you, my friend, last night, that, you know, I always analyze everything from a rational point of view. That's something that I cannot understand. That's something that I completely don't understand. Coming back to the case of Neha Taci, you were referring to that case, if I'm not mistaken. Know nothing about the case. Didn't see his file, otherwise I would do something illegally here in this country. And we have just opened chapter 23. And I was, for much smaller cases, warned by European Union not to do so. And I hope that European Union won't have double standards as they used to have from time to time. But at the same time, you were speaking about it, but it was not enough for us, and there was no good reasons for us to hold the negotiations, to stop the talks, to stop the dialogue. Even we faced that terrible case that was launched against Oliver Ivanovic, and he's been arrested, apprehended, imprisoned in different ways for 2.5 years. And you didn't hear that argument from myself as a key argument or as a sufficient argument to stop the dialogue, to argue with someone, or to say, okay, now we don't need to discuss furthermore issues with Kosovo Albanians. It's not a reason. Do you really believe that someone arrested Nehat Taci deliberately because he wanted to do it for political purposes, for political reasons? No, nobody did it. There was a warrant issued in 1997, 1998,
but this is the point. You know, we should clean this kind of lists because we keep going back in
it
kind
belongs
of
to our
things,
justice system and to our prosecutor's office. But you know, I agree with you. I agree with you in a sense that we need to look at all these files, but we need to do it mutually. We need to do it jointly. We need to do it, and you have to have the same approach when you speak about the Serbs and when you speak about the Albanians. And I do have it. Believe me, I do have it.
When I mentioned Trepča, I was not taking side. I was simply saying that looks like something that you say you don't understand. But
I don't get it.
But I'm telling you, no one from a normal world would understand what is happening. It's a mine in Kosovo that is there. There is no possibility to import it here. The citizens of Kosovo are there, and of course, it's economy, in my view. So, and I'm not saying who did what. I'm simply saying there are several things that come out like from the past, and we find them in the way towards the future, and then we are, you know,
Eddie,
because
it's
the
always popping up. It's always popping up something from the past. The problem is that now we need to tackle that issue, which was totally unnecessary for all of us. And that's why I'm saying to you, and that's what I was saying even to your friends and my colleagues from Pristina, that I didn't get it. And I would never say that, and I would never speak about it if you didn't launch that topic. I just don't get it. We have different attitudes over Kosovo and on Kosovo. You think it's a sovereign, independent state. We don't think that. We disagree on that, as you said. But we need to speak to each other. And this Trepča move was something that came out of the blue, that surprised us all. And I don't know, where do we go now? And I don't get it, to tell you the truth, what was the reason.
Well, let's hope that the discussions, I have to intervene here.
I'm ready to discuss it. I'm ready to discuss it.
No,
and you see, I'm getting frustrated, not because it's the main topic here in Serbia. No, it's not. I'm getting frustrated because you can do whatever you want. You can accomplish, you can achieve great results.
I would not have raised it if I would not have seen it everywhere in the Serbian media last night. But again, what I want to say is that it's very important, once we are very clear on one point, we think exactly the opposite about Kosovo in terms of the status. But in the same time that there is a dialogue going on, one should not forget about the people. Because at the end, it's about people feelings
That's why,
that
that's why I'm,
will decide
that's why I
the
was
quality
insisting.
of the dialogue.
Yes, that's why I was
And-
insisting
and let
on
me-
that.
let me
People
say-
were not asked about that. People in the north of Kosovo were not asked about it.
I'm going,
Yeah,
to,
okay,
I'm going
but-
to have to break in here, I'm afraid, because I'm being told by protocol from all sides that we need to break in. I'll be very
I'm late.
happy to...
I'm late for that meeting with Mladen Ivanic. But
So-
that would be a very interesting discussion with that.
But I'm sure you're going to have more opportunities to discuss this, and we're very keen to hear the outcome. I want to thank our two guests, Prime Minister Vucic, Prime Minister Rama. This has been a fascinating discussion. I've really enjoyed it. And one thing I'll be able to say is that I can say with confidence I have interviewed on stage the two tallest prime ministers in the world. So thank you very much. Can I ask you to remain seated? Can I ask you to remain seated as the Prime Ministers leave? And also for the next session, there are going to be headphones for simultaneous translation, which are available somewhere here. I'm not sure where exactly, but either that side or that side.